discovered that there are trolls that hang around hospitals. And when someone comes in all by themselves, again, mostly an elderly person or maybe a disabled person, they will sidle up to them and say, "Oh, where's your family? Oh, you have no family. Sign this paper and I can be your representative because you need a representative." And as you mentioned, they go to senior citizen locations and they do these presentations like, "You don't want your children to be burdened with taking care of you in your older age. So why don't you just agree to have a guardian when the time is right?" Now, you may not decide when the time is right. You know, the lawyer that helped draw up those papers can go to the court and guardianize you without you even knowing it.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman.
Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village SF, a local nonprofit providing older adults in the Northeast neighborhood of San Francisco with support to help age in place. I'm Lynn Winter-Gross.
Today on Not Born Yesterday, we're discussing a little-known system that all of us should know more about. You probably haven't heard of it unless you follow the travails of Britney Spears, because states do their best to intentionally keep the entire process behind closed doors. The system is known as guardianship, or in some states it's called conservatorship. The guardianship system is run by individual states and was designed to protect vulnerable citizens who cannot care for themselves. The elderly or people with mental or physical disabilities are the most common users of the system. But because it's largely unregulated and unsupervised, it has become attractive to predatory guardians, lawyers, conservators, and companies providing care.
Our guest today is Diane Dimond. She's been writing about this secret system for years, and she's written a book revealing about how almost 2 million Americans are living under court-mandated orders, and they've lost control of their lives and their assets. Some of the court-mandated arrangements work out well, she admits. But as the author found, abuse is easy. Judges are busy, and too many older adults are deemed incapacitated, and they're made wards of the court without the opportunity to speak for themselves. Her book, We're Here to Help, reveals how abuse of the system, predatory players, and unchallenged lies have cost at-risk people to lose more than $50 billion. Diane Dimond, welcome to Not Born Yesterday.
Thank you so much. Those introductions were so spot on. I thank you so much for shedding light on this issue. You're right. Well, people just don't know about it.
What is guardianship and how did it get started? Can you give us a quick history of the system?
The guardianship system has been used to, I don't want to use the word ensnare, let's say conscript, all sorts of people. It is elderly, mostly elderly widows, I must say, because women live longer than men. People who have had traumatic brain injury and they recover only to find that they've been put into guardianship and then they can't get out. Or someone who has a temporary psychiatric situation and then they can't get out. So the common denominator, ladies, is money. Anybody with some money can be a target.
Well, how does the process begin? I mean, who's the concerned party and who represents the targeted person?
Anybody can be the concerned party. It can be a former girlfriend or boyfriend. It could be an angry neighbor. It could be a business partner who's mad at you. Anyone goes to a lawyer and says, "I want a petition for guardianship." And believe me, there are no dearth of lawyers willing to write these petitions. And they may contain exaggerations. They may contain downright lies, like her daughter is stealing money from her. Judges don't have the time in these guardianship courts. They're called equity courts, different from civil and criminal courts. They don't have time to call in witnesses and have a hearing and talk to the targeted person. So mostly they just rubber stamp these petitions, whether the assertions in them are true or not. So now you're in guardianship. It might just be a temporary guardianship, but I didn't run into too many after 8 years of investigating this topic that temporary didn't turn into permanent. And it's
so you're saying the targeted person doesn't know this is happening in many cases?
Frequently.
So someone with assets is targeted, but they don't know.
That's right. And so, for example, there was a case in Texas where a mechanic was owed money by a wealthy man in the community. He'd done a bunch of work on his classic cars, and he was owed, $30,000-$40,000. This mechanic went to a lawyer, said, "What do I do?" The lawyer said, "Go for guardianship." And this mechanic became the guardian over this multimillionaire man. And it took his family, the elderly man's family, years to get him out of that arrangement.
And does the lawyer who recommended that he do this, does he get a cut of the action?
Well, of course, somebody pays him for his advice. And of course, he has to go to court to present the petition. Now, he's an officer of the court, so the judge believes the officer of the court's petition. So yes, he's making money. And then the guardian makes money. And if a conservator is appointed, they make money. And all of that is paid for out of the ward's estate. So you're paying people to take care of you, in effect, whether you want them to take care of you or not.
So how would I find out if somebody had done that to me?
Well, because someone will come knocking on your door and say, "Hello, we're from the court and we're here to help you." We're here because you've been guardianized or conserved, as they say in some states like California. You may not know at all. Now, some of these guardianships, I have to say, are really necessary and needed, and they work out well. A daughter goes to an elder law attorney or an estate attorney and says, "My mother is elderly. She's widowed. I'm worried about her, signing papers and paying bills. What can I do?" And they recommend guardianship. And the lawyer will tell you, "You can probably be named guardian." Well, I discovered in state after state after state, judges believe that if a case has come before them, the family might very well be dysfunctional. So they don't appoint the daughter as the guardian. They appoint someone waiting in the wings, a complete stranger, a for-profit guardian. Now, if the daughter gets appointed, it's great. She knows what mama wanted out of her life, what her life's dreams and goals were, but a stranger doesn't know. And that guardian can hire on any other number of people to help take care of the elderly person. Again, whether the elderly person or the disabled person or the person with a traumatic brain injury wants the help or not. A chef, a cook, a driver, a personal shopper. I mean, I don't have those things. Would you want those things to be paid for out of your hard-earned estate? But it happens all the time.
So even if you have instructions in a will or things like that, that is overlooked because you're not dead?
Isn't that sad? I mean, you pay a lawyer to put your last will and testament and your trust and your irrevocable trusts and your power of attorney and all of those things. And then another lawyer takes it to a different kind of court, and a judge can rule to nullify all of your legal papers. Just forget it, because the guardian says they need to do what is exactly opposite than what's in your will.
So I understand that guardians or conservators sometimes make presentations at senior centers or nursing homes, telling residents, "Oh, you don't want to saddle your children with all the paperwork and everything, so you should turn it over to a guardian." And this sounds to me so outrageous on so many counts. How does that even happen?
Oh, Miriam, you're so right. It is insidious on so many levels. I guess that's the best word. I discovered that there are trolls that hang around hospitals.
Okay.
And when someone comes in all by themselves, again, mostly an elderly person or maybe a disabled person, they will sidle up to them and say, "Oh, where's your family? Oh, you have no family. Sign this paper and I can be your representative because you need a representative." And as you mentioned, they go to senior citizen locations and they do these presentations like, "You don't want your children to be burdened with taking care of you in your older age. So why don't you just agree to have a guardian when the time is right?" Now, you may not decide when the time is right. The lawyer that helped draw up those papers can go to the court and guardianize you without you even knowing it. I have case after case in the book where people just went to a lawyer for help with their parent or their disabled person and said, what can we do to protect ourselves? They don't sign any papers. They don't make any decisions on the spot. But the lawyer can go to court and file a petition on their own against your loved one. And that happens all the time. It is outrageous.
And who's guarding the guardian and how much money they're spending and where they're spending the money?
Exactly. Bingo. You know, these guardians can, they charge up to $600 an hour. And that's to like open your mail or pay your bills or take a call from one of your family members or, and they may just take a call from the family members, but they charge you for the whole hour. Now, some of them don't. Some of them are very compassionate, loving. They're highly trained. They've certified themselves. But you know, there's only 3 states in the union that require a guardian to be licensed. I mean, your hairdresser has gone through more training. Your plumber has had to pass more tests than a guardian who takes over someone's entire life, their personal and all their financial decisions.
So how are state legislatures dealing with this? Is there nobody who's a reform-minded official that wants to take on this group of nefarious people who are there to help?
Yes, there are various different states that have done various different reform laws. For example, if you don't like the way a guardian is treating your loved one and you complain to the court, that guardian can say you're the problem and isolate your loved one from you. And so you don't get to see them, sometimes permanently. So there have been state laws to mandate specific visitation for family members. There have been laws to mandate that fees and audits must be filed once a year. Well, that's already the law. And, you know, if a guardian doesn't file an auditing report on where all your money went for 5, 6, 7 years, who notices?
It seems to me that we've heard about this before with rich people, but I think what you're saying is this can happen to anybody.
It can happen to anybody. Even I found instances of military people who had pensions, nothing big, but they had a regular amount of money coming in every month. That's attractive enough for some of the predators working in the system. These guardians are so powerful that if the ward is agitated and upset about their new situation of having strangers tell them what to do, they can order up medication to make the ward compliant. And I got case after case after case, family after family telling me that their loved one was so over-medicated as to become a zombie. And there's nothing they can do about it because they're not in charge of their loved one's life anymore. The guardian is.
You're a reporter. How did you get into this? Find out all about all these? I feel like I'm fairly well read and I've never heard about any of this. How did you find out?
Thank you for that question. You haven't heard about it. Most of the public hasn't, except for Britney Spears' case, because it's so secretive. They invoke HIPAA laws, the federal laws on medical privacy, to close the courtroom door, to seal all the case files, judges issue gag orders. And if anyone in the family says anything to anyone, even writes about it on Facebook, they can be held in contempt of court. Now, how did I find out about it? One of my very best friends who passed away, her sister called me from New Mexico. And she said, hey, do you remember my dad, the surgeon, Dr. Jack Herman? I said, yeah. She said, they've put him under guardianship. And she told me all about this. And I thought, this doesn't sound right. You become an incapacitated ward of the court and all your civil rights are taken away and strangers come in and your family's isolated. But I couldn't get any I didn't doubt her, but I couldn't get any confirmation. I couldn't get documents. I couldn't get any lawyers to talk to me. I couldn't figure it out. And about, I don't know, a few months later, I work with a lot of private detectives across the country because my specialty is crime and justice issues. And one of them called me and said, hey, there's this story in Pennsylvania, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, about this elderly woman And it was the same story. Isolated from her family, from her 2 children, because her older child put her in guardianship. She wants to move. She can't. She has $1.5 million. She can't get her hands on it. And I realized, wait a minute, this is so similar to the New Mexico case. So I got into the courtroom in Pennsylvania, but I got documents in that case. Her name was Betty Winstanley. And once I wrote about the Winstanley case, the floodgates opened. I heard from people in states across the country. Me too. Please give my case some publicity. My mother, I can't see my mother for 2 years now. My dad's about to die and they won't let me in to say goodbye. I mean, the cases just break your heart. They just break your heart.
So when you got all this information and you put it together, did anybody, a publisher, for example, or an editor say, this can't be right?
I got a lot of rejections. I went back to one of my original publishers, Simon & Schuster, Atria, and they, I don't know, it's just about old people. And I kept telling them it was more than that. But they didn't want, no, I couldn't, my agent just couldn't get a publisher until the Britney Spears case happened. And then everybody went, whoa, wait a minute. That could happen to me or somebody I love. They have money and they're a target. How does that work? So I got a book deal from that. It's called We're Here to Help When Guardianship Goes Wrong. And on the cover, you'll see a man in a suit with his fingers crossed behind his back, sort of denoting the double cross that can happen if you go the guardianship route. And so that's why in my book, I add chapters about how you can try to protect yourself. I mean, there's always going to be a sly predator around, but there are ways you can protect yourself.
Tell us about them.
Ones.
Tell us about those ways.
Yeah, you can. I've told you that a will, a power of attorney, your estate plans can be nullified. But if you put something specifically in your will about not wanting guardianship, or if you need it, these are the 3 people you consider okay to be your guardian. That's one way. You can also, a lot of these things happen because adult children fight about what's best to do for mom or dad. So if you're mom and dad and you're of sound mind and body, pick up your cell phone, record yourself on it, talking about what you want for the future. You want a guardian? Who is acceptable to you? You don't want a guardian? Put your wishes on a video camera and make a couple of copies.
Let me ask you, do sometimes people need guardians? Is that sometimes a good idea?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're such a diverse population. Children move away from their parents. The husband dies, the wife dies, and someone is left alone, and there's nobody close at hand to help them. Or they just don't have any family, period. Yes, guardianship is a needed, necessary thing. It just needs to be regulated. It needs to be controlled. And with the aging of America, guess what? It's estimated there'll be 200,000 new guardianships every single year. So it's a big problem.
So, but I want to get back to this, how seniors can protect themselves. So let's say I go and put something and make a video and I send it to my children. Well, that doesn't stop a guardian from coming in. They don't know that exists. So then the guardian takes away my rights, does everything. And my children have this tape and they go before a judge and the judge is like, oh, well, maybe she was not of sound mind when she recorded it. Or how do I know that was really your mother? I don't know her voice. I mean, it seems to me like we need to be a little more proactive to really stop this before it starts.
Right. And don't just record your voice, record the video of yourself as well. Yes. And don't just send the copy of your videotape to your children. File it with your will. Give it to your power of attorney person.
Once you're in guardianship, can you get out?
No, not usually. I mean, Britney Spears got out because she had lots of money. In the end, she was paying 13 different lawyers to try to get her out or try to control her. But getting out of guardianship is really, really difficult. The judges are overwhelmed. They're undertrained. They're understaffed. It's like, yeah, I already ruled on that guardianship. I'm not going back to it. That person's incapacitated, period.
So what would you suggest that our listeners do at this point, besides make a video of themselves?
I think keep an open line of communications with the people in your family. About 75% of guardianships are sparked by a family member going to a lawyer, who the lawyer then may go rogue, or it's squabbling family members. So first and foremost, get together with your family members, even if you don't get along, and realize the person who's going to be most hurt is your loved one. So say it's your elderly father who's widowed and left all alone. Everybody remember, the person at the crux of this is the one who may be isolated, over-medicated, surrounded by complete strangers that they don't know and don't want to be around. And so family harmony for the sake of your loved one is the most important thing you can do.
Well, thank you for all this upsetting but important information. Our guest today was Diane Dimond.
Thanks so much for having me.
Today on News You Can Use, we're talking about a behavior that affects people of all ages, but seems particularly relevant as we get older: the issue of self-criticism. Self-criticism is harmful on so many levels. It limits our ability to make decisions and hurts self-confidence with a distortion of self-image. If you're constantly doubting yourself, it affects your personal relationships and can affect your career and other parts of your life.
We all criticize ourselves at times, but it becomes harmful if we constantly criticize ourselves by blaming ourselves for every negative thing in our life, constantly comparing ourselves to others, and setting standards which aren't really achievable. You may recognize this habit in yourself if any of these thoughts seem familiar. I'm not good enough for this job, or this partner, or this friend. You tell yourself you're not attractive, and you're obsessing about your imperfections, thinking you don't deserve anything good.
Negative self-talk is unhealthy at any age. It can cause depression, body image distortions, anxiety, general dissatisfaction with your life, and isolation. If we tell ourselves we can't do something because of our age, or because our mobility or attention span or physical stamina isn't what it used to be, we end up in our own self-fulfilling prophecy. We don't do it because we think we can't do it well, and thus cut ourselves off from new and interesting opportunities. And be patient with yourself. It takes time to correct the harmful habits that you've had for most of your life, especially deep-rooted ones like self-criticism. Remember how you always told your toddler, "Good job," for even the smallest accomplishment? Try it on yourself. It can't hurt and will instantly change your outlook.
And that's our podcast for today. Our thanks go to our guest, Diane Dimond, author of We're Here to Help. You can learn more about Next Village SF at their website, nextvillagesf.org. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and Jason Dahlstedt is our engineer. And thank you for listening. We'd love to hear about what you like us to discover and discuss. Please contact us at notbornyesterdaypodcast.org and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.